Hello, yes, this is in fact a re-upload. I made a bit of an oopsie in the original video and included the low settings version of the original game, which many of you pointed out, thank you very much. Obviously it looks like arse.
16 times the detail.
I didn't pay enough attention, and there you go. So I've fixed that. There is the regular max settings version in the comparison now. Obviously this is going to kill this video in the algorithm, so you know, if you want to do me a solid, watch it all the way through, like, subscribe, share it to all your mates, and yeah, thanks very much. On with the video. Dawn of War Definitive Edition is here. I've got a huge month going on, including something you're not going to want to miss later on this month, so I'm going to skip the pleasantries and get right into it. Subscribe to be alerted when that video goes live, and let's get right into this. Dawn of War Definitive Edition includes all content released for Dawn of War 1 in a single package. Sort of. More on that near the end of the video. It's available now for a price of $30 US, and there's a 30% discount on that if you already own the Anniversary Edition, which most of you probably do, but if you don't, there is a 10% discount that is available for the next 2 weeks. All content in Dawn of War DE is unchanged, besides the technical improvements, so any reviews and opinions I've shared on that content remain the same. I'd encourage you to watch my retrospective on the whole package I made a few years back if you're interested in that aspect of it. But honestly, I suspect you already know how good Dawn of War is, as I'm sure it occupied many of your PCs back in the early 2000s. For this review then, I'm going to be focusing on the presentation and technical side of things, both of which will be timestamped in the description. I know you probably want me to talk about modding as well, and trust me, I'd love to. But unfortunately, while the Definitive Edition does come with that 64-bit architecture that we've known about for a while, it sounds like modders will have to implement their mods manually. I don't think you can simply use the same methods and files from mods for the original game or its expansions. And trust me, I did give it a go, but it just made my game go crazy like this. Feels like I'm breaking the law or something, but regardless, it didn't work. So yeah, hopefully the developers behind big mods like Ultimate Apocalypse and Unification can get them running without too much hassle. From what I've heard, it sounds like it shouldn't be a big deal, and I do think Relic were working with the developers to some extent, so yeah, hopefully that isn't too far away. I do think Relic maybe missed a bit of an opportunity here by not teaming up with them in more of an in-depth way to, you know, get some of these mods out on release alongside the game, but hey, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the coming weeks. Right, well, let's get on to something we can judge, and that's performance. For me, the game has been rock solid technically, and it runs great. I maxed everything out and was getting like 150 FPS or something on a 4K monitor, with around 50% GPU usage or so. It feels well optimized. I don't think anyone out there is going to be struggling with running the game, which is always good to see. However, if you do have a much older PC, or are running this on like a work laptop or something, then there is a decently large options menu to allow you to tailor it if you like. And as mentioned, the technical state of all of it has been great for me. I haven't put in a ton of hours since I got this review code quite late, but I haven't had any crashes, bugs, or glitches at all. Onto the quality then. I reckon you'll agree with me that it looks great, really. It keeps the spirit of the original while bringing up the quality of basically every aspect of the visuals. Lighting is improved, textures are obviously much higher resolution,
16 times the detail.
Draw distance is increased, models are more intricate, and effects have more detail. It's all here. That being said though, you can still tell it's a remaster of an old game, if that makes sense. You wouldn't be fooling anyone by saying that this is a modern release or anything, as I think you probably could to the uninformed with a game like Age of Empires 2 Definitive or something. Like, if you look closely, a lot of the models are still pretty sharp and blocky, terrain isn't incredible, and it clearly just has that kind of early 2000s vibe to it. Still, I like what they've done here, and it's not until you put the old and the new side by side that you realise how much overall clarity and resolution have been improved with the Definitive Edition. Really, it is night and day. And I'm glad they kept it true to the original. Personally, while I may have hoped for a bit more of a remake versus remaster, I'm glad it's more in this direction rather than if they'd gone too far and lost the soul of the original. Audio is also great. It's not as stark of an upgrade as the visuals, but it holds up, and again, listening to the old and new side by side, it does show obvious improvements.
All Bloodraven flights execute Protocol 23 and initiate civilian evacuation. We will dispatch the ground forces.
Yes, my lord.
Ground forces, my lord? But the orcs have retreated.
All Bloodraven flights execute Protocol 23 and initiate civilian evacuation. We will dispatch the ground forces.
Yes, my lord.
Ground forces, my lord. But the orcs have retreated.
Right, with that out of the way, I want to talk about everything else with this definitive edition, which funnily enough isn't much. The main draw card for Dawn of War DE is undoubtedly the visual and technical uplift, at least right now. We'll see what happens with mods, though I'm certainly hopeful that that will prevail. I guess what I want to say is, I don't know, in a way, I'm a little disappointed here. Like, I don't want to make it sound like the game's bad or anything, it's not, it's good. But I feel like in 2025 we have come to expect a bit more from our definitive editions. I don't know. Like, not including any more content or bigger gameplay improvements or something like that. Kind of feels like we're back in the 2010s with the HD editions and the like. Obviously this is much more of an uplift versus an HD edition like Age of Mythology, but you get what I mean. I think what's got me to have these feelings stems from how they've handled skirmish mode here. Before the game released, in earlier videos I'd theorized how they would handle combining all the game's different skirmish modes together. As each game was standalone, you could go back to any individual one and play skirmish in different ways with different faction rosters and changes to how each faction played. For example, if you didn't like the air units or balance changes that Soulstorm brought to the series, you could play skirmish in Dark Crusade and be unaffected by those additions. Unfortunately, they've done what I think is probably the worst of all possible options and basically only allowed Soulstorm's version of skirmish mode to be played. So all factions are available with all the new units as they were in Dawn of War's final expansion. Having everything in a way is great, obviously, but I really wish they'd included even just like a drop-down box in the game options to limit what was available in skirmish. Maybe by default it could be as it is, but if you wanted to, you could change it so your game was running the Dark Crusade rule set, or the original, or Winter Assault. You know, you get the idea. This is probably only a complaint for a small niche of players, but personally I kind of take slight issue with the fact that this is supposed to be like the definitive edition, yet it's missing an option that I would have expected to see for its gameplay, especially because of how iconic each expansion was. I feel like some of the identity of that has perhaps been lost with how this has been implemented. Alright, that basically brings me to the end, and yeah, I know this was a short one, however with late review code, nothing on mods for the moment, and a really busy month for me, I figured I'd just streamline the info that I think most of you will want to know, and get it out there as soon as possible. So yeah, look, overall, I do recommend Dawn of War Definitive Edition. If what you were hoping for was a modern remastering and high quality uplift of these classic games, then you'll get what you paid for. It looks great, it runs well, and it includes all the campaigns in one nice, easy to use launcher. And obviously, if you've never played Dawn of War, then there is a ton of content here. 2 cinematic campaigns, 2 Total War style campaigns in Dark Crusade and Soulstorm, tons of skirmish, tons and tons of maps, multiplayer. Yeah, you could spend ages here. And obviously the army painter is back and awesome and as great as ever. So yeah, I think if that's you, someone who wants to get the campaigns and re-enjoy those, or enjoy them for the first time, then you'll get the most out of this, especially considering how much of a visual uplift the original and Winter Assault have gotten, thanks to the originals being in 4x3 and having much more of a focus on its narrative with cutscenes. But if you're just looking to relive skirmish games, the cost may be a little much, but that's for you to decide. Obviously, full Steam integration is very nice, and if that 64-bit platform does indeed pay dividends for mods, then that'll be a huge draw and easily make the cost worth it for a lot of people out there. You can get the game on Steam now, and if you do so, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want me to report back on how the big mods perform when they launch, let me know that as well. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.